We have and we will continue to take firm action against the few errant operators who have abused the system and undertaken illegal activities.
And that's a warning to anyone who breaks the rules, as Singapore's KTV cluster grows to 120 cases and counting. This is the Straits Times Newsnight. Good evening, I'm Chow Suen. It's official, the KTV cluster is now the largest active cluster in Singapore at 120 cases. It continues to grow at an alarming rate, and ministers stressed that this is in large part due to illegal activity. Minister Lawrence Wong said that the spark had probably come from a cryptic or hidden case in the community, which then spread when KTVs illegally continued to operate.
The problem that arises is that these pass holders, seemingly on valid passes, work passes or social visit passes, have breached the rules by moonlighting as hostesses. So we will take enforcement action against them and also against any local sponsors of these passes who may not have given accurate information to ICA in their applications.
The KTV cluster is nothing like the other clusters that we've seen so far. Since Monday, over 1,000 people have so far come forward to be tested, and some 2,480 individuals are now under quarantine. And according to Health Minister Ong Ye Kung, more cases are expected to emerge in the coming days.
The challenge of this cluster, unlike clusters in a mall or in, say, Bukit Merah, where we know who the tenants are, who live in which blocks, and we can mount a geographical testing exercise and test everybody within that geography. The problem with this cluster is that we don't have full information of who are the customers, where they have been to, and where they are now. It's hard to gather them together and to mount a special ops. But nevertheless, as you can see, the 4 rings, we are doing MOH is doing whatever we can to aggressively trace and test them. Notwithstanding that, we should expect to see many more cases emerging in the coming days.
Now, one question many are asking is, how did the KTV cluster grow so quickly in less than a week? Director of Medical Services Kenneth Mark explains.
Most of the cases in this cluster have visited multiple KTV clubs and outlets. And this was either multiple visits to several KTV outlets on the same day or multiple days during the period of concern. A second group of cases arose mainly in Singapore residents who are patrons and frequented these KTV outlets on a very regular basis. And it's likely that there's been considerable mask-off, close contact interactions which has taken place within these premises, which has allowed infection then to spread. And finally, we have detected infections among some household members, which suggests that some household transmission has already taken place.
With KTV cluster numbers still on the rise and fears that it will continue to grow, ST journalist David San paid a visit to KTV lounges and explains what goes on behind closed doors, surfacing the many instances of illegal activity. He tells Newsnight what he found and why the KTV cluster is particularly dangerous.
They spend like half an hour with each of these guys and then they move on. So if there's anything that's transmissible, it really transmits quite quickly in that way. And it's not a case of whereby they just sit beside you and, just like hold your hand kind of thing. There's more touchy-feely things going on, sharing of drinks even, playing of games. And all this is done without masks on. And on top of that, they don't use any tracing or tracking. There's no trace together or safe entry which they will use. Even though for sure it is there. You have the temperature taking, you have the QR code scanning, but none of them will use that. Even the moment they enter the KTV, it's masks off. You are not going to get around in the KTV with
David also explains that despite the cluster, there is fear that some of the hostesses are carrying out their activities underground, making it even harder to trace. He tells us how such operators evaded detection.
The measures were strict, but a lot of these KTVs have pivoted to F&B. I mean, we're talking about the illicit ones, not the ones that actually follow the rules. So under the guise of being an F&B establishment, some of them don't even have kitchens, even though they pretend to have one. They actually order food from outside and bring it in. And it's quite easy for them to evade, right? I mean, if they have lookouts and cameras. From what I understand, after speaking to some people familiar with the whole scene, is that there are often like lookouts outside in the cars, in the back of the building, in the car park, that kind of thing. You know, police raid them, they all basically just get out of the area. When I went down, basically, there were still people going down to these places and to the KTVs. It wasn't a case of people not going down, you know, shunning it kind of thing. You can tell that they were all there, like last hurrah kind of thing. The people that I spoke to said, you know what, we heard that this KTV is going to close today last day because they're going to close for deep cleaning. So today we all go up. Full disclaimer, after going down to the KTV lounges, I just did a swab test and it just came back negative. So that's that.
Now, taking a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers, 53 new locally transmitted COVID-19 cases were confirmed today, including 32 from the KTV cluster. 44 of the local cases were linked and 9 unlinked cases. There were also 8 imported cases. And here's where we see how vaccinations can make an impact. In a change of strategy, Singapore will be taking a differentiated approach to the tightened measures, with more relaxed measures for vaccinated individuals. From Monday, July 19th, unvaccinated people here will be allowed to dine out only alone or in pairs, but fully vaccinated people will be able to continue to dine out in groups of 5. There will be some exceptions for children below the age of 12. As for hawker centres, food courts and coffee shops, which tend not to impose mandatory safe entry check-in, group sizes will be limited to 2 people, regardless of one's vaccination status. Meanwhile, all nightlife establishments, over 400 of them, that had pivoted to F&B outlets will have their operations suspended until July 30th. These establishments will be individually notified about the suspension. During this period, all staff of these places will be tested and safe management protocols will be inspected. These measures must be properly implemented before they are allowed to resume operations. Residents of an HDB block in Little India underwent mandatory testing today. This after the Health Ministry said that 12 cases were detected in 2 households at Block 639 Rowell Road. Visitors to the affected block, or those who have interacted with residents there from June 30th to Wednesday, may also register for a voluntary swab test. These tests will be conducted by appointment only at designated regional screening centres till 4 p.m. on Saturday. Now let's take a look at what's been trending on social media today. And at just 18, Oliver Damon will be the youngest person in space after he takes off with Jeff Bezos on a flight scheduled for next Tuesday. Oliver will...
Hi, I'm Oliver Damon, and I'll be joining Jeff Bezos, Mark Bezos and Wally Fink on the first flight of New Shepard. I am super excited to go to space and joining them on the flight. I've been dreaming about this all my life. Now I'll become the youngest astronaut ever because I'm 18 years old. I am super excited to experience zero-G and see the world from above. Thank you so much for the people at Blue Origin for making this happen and making New Shepard. Thank you.
Oliver will replace the anonymous winner of the ticket to join the billionaire after the winner could no longer board the New Shepard spacecraft. The winner, who paid $29.7 million, has, and I quote, scheduling conflicts, as reported by Bezos' Blue Origin company. The cost of Oliver's ticket, which his father purchased, has yet to be disclosed. In addition to Bezos and his brother Mark Bezos, Oliver will be accompanied by Wally Fink, an 82-year-old American veteran pilot. Oliver and Fink will be the youngest and oldest person in space. And at the Season 2 premiere of Ted Lasso in West Hollywood last night, Jason Sudeikis wore a sweatshirt with the names Jadon, Marcus and Bukayo. A show of support for England players Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford and Bukayo Saka, who were subjected to racist abuse online after the Euros final. Sudeikis attended the premiere alongside Apple CEO Tim Cook ahead of the show returning to Apple TV Plus on July 23rd. The heartwarming comedy series about an American football coach who crosses the pond to coach an English football team has proved to be a huge hit, with a record 20 Emmy nominations, including for Best Comedy Writing, Best Actor for Jason Sudeikis, and a number for the show's supporting cast. Now, with just 7 days to go before the Tokyo Olympics, the anticipation is higher than ever. And the Straits Times will be showcasing the very best of the action online. From sprinter Shanti Pereira to diver Frida Lim, get to know the 23 athletes who will represent Singapore in Japan. And get the latest interactive content and news of the Olympics, covering all sports, including the medal tally and results. All you have to do is go to straitstimes.com/Tokyo Olympics. And that wraps up the Straits Times Newsnight. Do visit straitstimes.com to see more news and videos. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the button below. Keep safe and have a great weekend.